Hey there, dreamers. Welcome back to Hypothetical, the cozy corner where we drift through the wonders of our world, softly and curiously. I'm so happy you've decided to spend a quiet moment, whether it's night, morning, or that calm in between, unwinding here with me. Let your shoulders ease their tension, feel your breath slow to a gentle rhythm, and perhaps allow your eyes to gently soften as we prepare to settle into a thought that stretches the boundaries of our common understanding. Tonight, or whenever this quiet finds you, I invite you to nestle deeper into your comfortable space. Imagine the soft hush of the world just outside your window, the subtle symphony of quietudes that unfold when our focus shifts inward. Picture the most serene vista your mind can conjure, perhaps a gentle mist drifting across ancient trees, or the vast, unblemished canvas of a star-strewn night sky. It is within such a space, this realm of tranquil contemplation, that we can truly begin to explore the delicate dance of possibility and wonder that our planet so generously offers. Our world is a grand library, vast and enigmatic, its chapters written not just in the rustle of leaves or the ebb and flow of tides, but in the very strata of stone, the slow sigh of shifting deserts, and the profound, silent presence of ice. Within these geological epochs lie stories, some whispered through the winds of aeons, others held captive, locked away in crystalline prisons, awaiting a moment of rediscovery. We often think of the familiar landscapes that harbor life, lush valleys, bustling coasts, verdant forests. But what about the territories that seem to defy life, regions so stark, so utterly immense, that they appear to exist only in the most pristine and powerful forms of elemental solitude? Let us drift now towards one such realm, a domain of shimmering light and profound cold. Imagine the vast, undulating landscapes where winter is not a season, but an eternal architect, sculpting the world in shades of brilliant white and ethereal blue. Think of the crisp, clean breath of air that fills your lungs there, tasting of purity and distance. Picture the silence so complete that it almost rings, broken only by the creak of unseen stresses, or the distant liquid murmur of meltwater seeking its escape, a soft, almost shy whisper in a world of giants. These are the lands where ice reigns supreme, the glaciers, those immense, slow-moving rivers of frozen fresh water cradled by mountains or spreading across continents, their surfaces reflecting the sky in an infinite kaleidoscope of shifting light. To stand before a glacier is to confront time itself, tangible and majestic. One perceives the sheer weight of antiquity held suspended, each sapphire crevasse, each smoothed undulation of the icy surface hints at centuries, millennia even, of patient formation. They are not merely frozen water. They are living, breathing monuments, moving with an almost imperceptible, profound determination. Picture them, these serene giants creeping onward with an enduring persistence, carving valleys, polishing mountain flanks, and in their silent, steady journey, carrying within them the echoes of eras long past. They possess an almost magical ability to preserve, to enfold, and keep pristine the very essence of what falls into their grasp. Be it the delicate skeletal remains of ancient creatures, dust motes from forgotten volcanic eruptions, or even the nuanced chemistry of atmosphere from thousands of years ago, held perfectly in tiny, encapsulated bubbles. The ice then becomes a great glistening archivist, a memory keeper unlike any other. Consider for a moment the very structure of ice itself. When you hold a snowflake, intricate and fleeting, you are witnessing the delicate crystallization of water molecules. Magnify that beauty to a titanic scale, and you begin to understand the wonder of a glacier. It's not just a solid block, it's a dynamic entity. The deep blue hues that mesmerize us are not just reflections, they are a profound visual language. As light, particularly the red end of the spectrum, is absorbed by the dense, compacted ice, the purer blue wavelengths are scattered and return to our eyes. It's the color of depth, of compressed time, of a kind of absolute serene stillness. And within that profound blue, that astonishing transparency, one can sometimes glimpse the intricate veins of frozen flow, the ancient pressure patterns etched into its very being. It is here, in these silent, shimmering depths, that our curiosity gently unfurls. We know that life finds a way in the most extraordinary of places. Think of extremophiles thriving in superheated vents at the ocean floor, or tenacious organisms clinging to existence in the dry, harsh conditions of deserts. The story of life on Earth is one of ceaseless adaptation, of ingenuity against all odds. Yet, the vast icy interiors of glaciers for the longest time have been perceived as the ultimate void, utterly hostile to anything but the simplest, most robust microbial life. But what if our perception has been limited? What if, contained within the slow glacial march of time, within the deep, unyielding embrace of compressed ice, there existed more than just fleeting microbial forms? What if the ice held not just natural formations, but structures, patterns that speak of deliberate shaping, of intricate planning, of intelligence? Imagine, if you will, the sheer marvel of discovering a perfect geometric imprint embedded deep within the walls of an ice cave, not a geological anomaly, but a purposeful design. Picture finding a series of perfectly smooth, unnaturally straight passages extending into the profound blue heart of a glacier, channels that hum with a faint, residual echo of engineered intent. How would such a discovery reshape our understanding of what is truly possible? What kind of existence could flourish, or indeed have flourished, in a world seemingly inimical to anything but cold, silent decay? The notion might initially feel as cold and distant as the environment it proposes, but allow yourself to gently lean into the what if. What if there was a time, perhaps so unfathomably long ago that even our geological records whisper only vague, indistinct memories, when certain beings found a way to not just survive in these frozen giants, but to actively inhabit them? Not on the surface, exposed to the howling winds and biting temperatures, but within the very fabric of the ice itself. Consider the challenges, of course, the obvious obstacles that would face such an endeavor, the immense pressures of the moving ice, the perpetually freezing temperatures, the crushing weight, and yet the very uniqueness of the ice offers profound possibilities too. The immense insulation it provides, a barrier against the violent swings of surface temperature, the stable, albeit cold, environment, the potential for vast hidden spaces formed not by geological forces, but by intentional carving, by a careful, almost tender sculpting of their very crystalline habitat. We are speaking not of rudimentary shelters, but of something far more complex, a collective, intricate endeavor, the quiet, hidden architecture of a forgotten civilization, not one that erected monumental structures against a sunny sky, but one that perhaps lived inside its medium in a unique and utterly breathtaking symbiosis with the glacial world. Their cities, if we can call them that, would not be of stone and mortar, but of sculpted, endlessly renewable ice, glistening with an inner light, maintained with an understanding of cryo-architecture that is utterly alien to our warmest imaginings. Their light might come from sources that we cannot yet conceive, diffused through the blue luminescence of their icy walls, creating an otherworldly glow that painted their days and nights in shades of deep sapphire and sparkling diamond. Their sustenance might derive from unique, cold-adapted resources, perhaps farmed in hidden pockets of glacial meltwater, or drawing on the enigmatic energy reservoirs of the deep earth that touch the glacier's root. And what would be the stories etched into these icy halls? What narratives would play out in these serene, deeply protected chambers? Would their understanding of time be profoundly different, shaped by the slow, stately movement of their very homes? Their history, unlike ours, preserved perfectly, almost immortalized in the continuous formation of new ice, their ancient whispers caught in crystalline stasis, awaiting a chance for rediscovery. This is the intriguing thread we wish to gently tug upon today. A lost civilization, not beneath sands or waves, but cradled within the very essence of a world we think we know. A realm where the extreme became the ordinary, where the frigid depths held secrets not just of dormant nature, but of vibrant, ingenious life. The glaciers, those sleeping giants, are not just barren monuments to cold. Perhaps they are also colossal memory banks, holding not just environmental data, but entire lost chapters of sophisticated existence, patiently waiting within their silent, glistening heart for the moment when a gentle inquiry, a quiet pondering begins to seek them out. To truly understand the whisper of a lost civilization nestled within the colossal architecture of glaciers, we must first set our minds adrift, floating far above the familiar landscapes of green and brown. Imagine a world sculpted not by wind and water alone, but by the relentless, profound pressure of ice, an ice that stretches for vast distances, distances that would take weeks, perhaps months, to traverse on foot. This is not the jagged, crystalline realm of mountain peaks we often picture, but a sweeping, low-angled expanse, a continental blanket shimmering under a muted sky. Beneath this frozen canopy, in realms untouched by sunlight for millennia, lies a silent, colossal heart. Here the ice ceases to be merely frozen water and becomes something more akin to a geological medium, a living rock. It breathes in imperceptible movements, groans in the depths, and flows with an incredible slow majesty. It is within this utterly alien environment that the faintest echo of a people who found their solace and their sustenance in its heart might still reside. Let us contemplate the glacier itself not as an inert mass, but as an ancient, intricate labyrinth. Imagine pressing your ear to the earth, feeling the immense, patient presence of a frozen titan. At the surface there is the raw bite of the wind, the occasional startling boom of calving ice, or the hush of falling snow. But travel deeper, far below the churning blue crevasses and the wind-sculpted ridges, and a different world reveals itself, a world where light filters in hues of sapphire and teal, growing softer, more diffuse with every meter descended, until only a profound, ethereal darkness remains. It is here, in the perpetual twilight of the deep ice, that our understanding of life itself is gently stretched. What manner of light could possibly guide footsteps? What warmth could repel the ceaseless, encroaching chill? And what sustenance could be drawn from a world seemingly barren? To dwell here within this frozen core would demand an intimacy with the earth utterly unlike our own, a complete reorientation of senses and purpose. The journey inward, even in imagination, must be slow and deliberate, mirroring the languid pace of the glacier itself. Consider the weight above, the incomprehensible tonnage of ice that would dwarf mountains. This pressure compacts the snow of ages into ice so dense and devoid of air bubbles that it takes on an almost glass-like quality. Through such ancient ice, sounds are muted, travel in unexpected ways, and a profound stillness permeates all. Here, perhaps, the beating of a heart would feel like a symphony, a distant, reassuring rhythm against the colossal silence. And yet this vast, cold heart of the world is not entirely uniform. Even glaciers in their majestic slowness are shaped by the underlying earth. Imagine deep currents of liquid water, vast subterranean rivers flowing in darkness beneath miles of ice. These are the subglacial systems, the arteries of the frozen continent, warmed by the Earth's own slow internal furnace. Here, where the ice meets the bedrock, where friction generates a minute but constant heat, and where geological activity can open vents of warmth, life can indeed find an unexpected foothold. These geothermal whispers from deep within the planet offer a radical reimagining of the icy interior. For generations, scientists have probed the ice with sonar and radar, revealing vast freshwater lakes hidden kilometers beneath Antarctica's surface. Lakes like Vostok, which lies 4 kilometers under the ice sheet, a body of water isolated for perhaps 15 million years. These discoveries prove that liquid water, vital for any complex life, can and does persist beneath glacial fortresses. Which brings us to the astonishing notion: if liquid water can persist, might life persist within it, or indeed around it? Within these hidden reservoirs, shielded from the sun yet touched by the Earth's inner warmth, the most ancient and robust forms of life, single-celled organisms, archaea, bacteria, thrive. They live not by sunlight, but by chemosynthesis, drawing energy from minerals dissolved in the water, from the very chemistry of the deep earth. These are the unsung alchemists of the underworld, painting life onto a canvas of stone and ice. Now, let us consider the possibility of a civilization that adapted not merely to exist within this fragile, deep earth ecosystem, but to thrive by learning its profound secrets. A civilization that could interpret the glacial groan, the subtle tremor of an aquifer, the changing pressure within the ice as vital communications from their world. These hypothetical people, the ocelli as we might call them, would have needed extraordinary adaptations. Imagine them. Perhaps their eyes would have evolved to perceive the very faintest shifts in light, picking up the almost imperceptible glow of bioluminescent microorganisms in the meltwater, or the ghostly blue of ice refracted through unimaginable depths. Their other senses, heightened in this perpetually dim environment, would interpret vibrations through the ice, discerning the flow of water, the presence of unseen creatures, or even the passage of fellow ocelli through the dense material that surrounded them. Their forms, too, would reflect their profound bond with the ice. Perhaps slight of build, enabling nimble navigation through sculpted tunnels, or with broader, more robust limbs suited to shaping and maneuvering immense blocks of ice. Their skin might be pale, almost translucent, or perhaps dark to absorb any precious warmth, or even iridescent, catching and amplifying faint ambient light from their unique environment. Their voices might carry in soft, resonating tones, not wishing to disturb the ancient, heavy silence. The very air they breathed would be a carefully managed treasure. Within glacial ice, tiny bubbles of ancient air are trapped, fossilized remnants of atmospheres past. But for sustained breathing, a civilization would need more. Perhaps they carved their living spaces in close proximity to the hidden meltwater streams, where water itself holds dissolved gases, including precious oxygen. Or perhaps, with great care, they cultivated specialized microbial colonies that could perform slow, deliberate photosynthesis using the dim, diffused light filtering down through the thick ice, or even from their own sources of light. And what of light itself? In a world of perpetual twilight, light would be sacred. We can envision chambers sculpted for optimal capture and diffusion of light. Perhaps specific ice crystals were selected and polished to channel what little blue light penetrated the vast thicknesses above. For brighter, more controlled illumination, the ocelli might have harnessed the fascinating phenomenon of bioluminescence. Cultivating luminous fungi or microscopic algae, creating living lamps that pulsed with a gentle inner radiance, casting moving patterns of soft light across their ice-carved dwellings. Imagine homes bathed in a tranquil, shifting glow, like deep-sea caverns illuminated by the movements of plankton. Their architecture would be a testament to ingenuity and a profound reverence for their medium. Homes carved directly from the ice, not unlike the snow houses of Arctic peoples, but on a grander, more permanent scale. They would have mastered the art of carving and shaping ice, perhaps using heated tools powered by their deep earth geothermal vents, or employing the natural erosion of warm water currents to sculpt vast, cavernous spaces. These dwellings might be intricate, multi-layered structures, carefully designed to conserve the minute warmth they could gather, perhaps incorporating translucent panes of pure dense ice that acted as both windows and thermal insulation. Imagine their main living chambers, not simply utilitarian shelters, but breathtaking spaces where form and function merged. The walls and ceilings, sculpted from ancient blue ice, would diffuse light in extraordinary ways, creating a sense of ethereal wonder. Perhaps they discovered specific layers within the glacier, layers of incredible purity and strength, which they carefully expanded, reinforcing natural ice formations with their own sculpted additions. Here, a massive, overarching vault might hold a central gathering place, its floor kept comfortably warm by unseen subterranean streams, its atmosphere calm and still. The tools of the ocelli would be as remarkable as their dwellings. For shaping ice, they might have employed naturally occurring mineral deposits, hardened stones found in the bedrock beneath the glacier, or perhaps tools forged using the localized heat from volcanic activity, an incredible mastery of primitive metallurgy in an impossible setting. Picture chisels crafted from particularly strong crystalline forms, saws edged with microscopic abrasive elements, all used with a precision honed by generations of meticulous craftsmanship. Their movements would be slow, deliberate, each cut and carve a profound act of creation. The quest for food, of course, would define their daily rhythm. In such an isolated, resource-scarce world, every crumb of sustenance would be precious. Their diet would undoubtedly be centered around the unique ecosystems sustained by geothermal vents or subglacial waters. They might have cultivated dense colonies of specialized extremophilic bacteria or fungi that thrive on the chemical energy from the earth. Picture extensive subterranean farms, intricate networks of carved ice chambers where water, warmed and infused with minerals, circulated through living carpets of microorganisms. This would be a form of deep earth agriculture, a careful symbiotic relationship with the life forms that called the abyssal meltwaters home. Perhaps they would also harvest organisms unique to their habitat, certain hardy algae that could bloom in diffuse light, or small, strange invertebrates adapted to icy waters. The protein and energy sources might be supplemented by mineral compounds from the bedrock itself, carefully extracted and processed. Every resource, from the meltwater they drank to the tiny organisms they consumed, would be handled with a profound reverence born of its sheer preciousness. Their society would have developed intricate systems for rationing and sharing, born from the absolute necessity of collective survival. Daily life for the Aceli would revolve around patience, observation, and deep respect for their environment. The passage of time would not be marked by sunrises and sunsets, but by the subtle, immense cycles of the glacier itself, the shift in pressure, the distant rumblings of ice, the seasonal ebb and flow of meltwater within the deeper channels. Their navigation of their world would be a mastery of acoustics, a mental map of their ice fortress woven from echoes, vibrations, and faint light. To journey through their civilization would be to move through vast tunnels, some naturally occurring, some meticulously carved, leading to different chambers, resource zones, or spiritual sites. Their cultural expressions would be as unique as their existence. Art might be ephemeral, created by shaping translucent ice, by capturing rare light phenomena, or by carefully guiding the growth of bioluminescent organisms into patterns that shifted and glowed. Storytelling would be crucial, preserving knowledge, histories, and spiritual beliefs in the absence of written language as we know it. These stories would undoubtedly center on the ice, the water, the deep earth, and the spirit of survival, passed down in resonant tones and chambers where every word was amplified and reflected. Imagine their spiritual practices. Perhaps they revered the source of the geothermal heat as a kind of earth god, the life-giver from below, or the very glacier itself, an ancient, benevolent giant, a protector and provider. Water, the flowing living heart of their world, would certainly be central to their rituals, a symbol of life, purification, and continuity. Their ceremonies might involve silent contemplation, collective chanting in vast ice amphitheaters, or slow, deliberate movements through shimmering lightscapes they had painstakingly cultivated. The children of the Aceli would grow up with an innate understanding of the ice. They would learn to read the glacier, to distinguish the myriad subtle hues of blue and green, to hear the soft gurgle of unseen water, to feel the nuanced shift in the icy currents. Play might involve sliding on polished ice surfaces, exploring intricate crystalline formations, or engaging in quiet games of observation. Their education would be profoundly experiential, teaching them not only how to survive, but how to be fully alive within their frozen home. And so we begin to build a mental picture of a civilization that adapted not through conquering nature, but through becoming inextricably part of it. A people who found sustenance, shelter, light, and meaning within the cold, silent depths of an ice sheet, turning its formidable challenges into the very essence of their identity. They understood the deep connectivity of their world, the immense weight of the ice above, the relentless churn of the planet's core below, and the delicate, persistent miracle of life in between. Their continued existence depended on a profound, generation-spanning understanding of glacial dynamics, where the ice was stable, where it was safe to carve, where meltwater was plentiful, and where it might be dangerously ephemeral. They would know the patterns of deep flow, the subterranean topography, and the subtle ways their immense world shifted and changed. To them, the glacier was not a barrier but a homeland, a protector, a giver of life, shaped over untold ages and destined, in its own vast rhythm, to slowly move and reshape itself over epochs. The whispers of their existence, though faint, resonate with a profound lesson that life, in its boundless ingenuity, finds a way, even in the most improbable corners of our world, and sometimes the most magnificent achievements are etched not on stone monuments under an open sky, but in the hushed, luminous depths of an ancient ice sheet. A world patiently awaiting discovery, slowly melting into myth, perhaps leaving behind nothing more than the faintest of energetic signatures, a ghost of a civilization once intertwined with the glacial heart of our Earth. We have spoken of the faintest hints, the lingering echoes on the distant sensors that first whispered of something improbable, something hidden deep beneath the surface of the world's ancient ice. But now we must gently part the veils, not with urgency, but with the quiet reverence of a traveler stepping into a forgotten shrine. We journey now, not with a drill, but with our imaginations, seeking to truly understand what it might have meant, what it felt like to draw breath within the very heart of the ice. Imagine, if you will, the slow, ponderous dance of the ice itself. It is not static, this ancient frozen river, but a sculptor without hands, forever reshaping its own deep interior. For any life to root within such a transient cathedral, it would require an understanding, a profound sensitivity to this ceaseless, languid transformation. We speak not merely of sheltering within a cavity, but of becoming utterly entangled, symbiotically bound with the very nature of ice. Let us begin with the gateway. Picture not a monumental archway, but a breath held, a delicate fissure discovered perhaps by accident or through generations of careful searching. We might envision an initial entry that felt more like a slow pilgrimage into the deepening twilight. The surface of the glacier would have been a vast, unforgiving expanse, its dazzling whiteness reflecting the sun's glare, its winds carving sharp edges into the landscape. But beneath that harsh brilliance, in places where the ice pressed close against ancient bedrock, where meltwater seeped through intricate channels and refraws, forming veins and hollows, there could have been an invitation. Perhaps it began with the search for sanctuary during the long, unbroken winter, or the sudden, unforeseen collapse of the outer world, a small band, driven by desperation, or perhaps drawn by a glimmering promise heard only in the keen silence of the poles, ventured into a winding blue maw. The air would grow thick and heavy as they descended, losing the bite of the wind, yet gaining an immense, surrounding cold. Each step inward would muffle the world above, until the familiar sounds of the wind, the cry of birds, the distant creak of the ice shifting, faded into a deep, pervasive quiet. This silence, however, would not be an emptiness, but a resonant hum, alive with the subtle work of immense pressures, of slow crystal growth, of meltwater whispering through hidden veins. And so we step beyond the sun's reach. The dazzling, blinding white gives way to an increasingly ethereal palette. Blues begin to emerge, the deep, profound cerulean that absorbs all warmth and carries secrets in its depths, transitioning to the soft aquamarine glow where sunlight, fractured and diluted by kilometers of ice, manages to filter down. It is a world perpetually illuminated not by the harsh directness of day nor the velvet blanket of night, but by an internal diffused luminescence. The air would taste of pure distilled cold, a delicate crispness that cleansed the lungs with each slow breath. The floor underfoot, once perhaps rough rock or frozen snow, would have transitioned into something smoother, colder, yet often sculpted by the slow work of millennia into undulating paths, as if the very glacier were guiding their hesitant steps. The challenges, when we pause to consider them, were immense. How does one sustain life in such an alien realm? The early pioneers, those first bold spirits who dared to trust the ice, would have relied on what little their previous lives offered, perhaps portable light, carefully hoarded provisions, and the deep, abiding warmth of shared human closeness. But survival within the glacier demanded more than endurance, it demanded adaptation. It necessitated a complete rethinking of what home could be, transforming not just their dwellings, but their very way of seeing the world. Think of the glacier itself as a vast, living canvas, continually shifting and reforming. To build within it required an artistry almost beyond our comprehension, a deep reverence for the material itself. They would have discovered early on that while ice could be solid and immense, it could also be plastic, capable of being shaped by the right frequency of sound, the precise application of heat, or the subtle dance of directed pressure. Their architecture would not have been imposed upon the ice, but grown from it, coexisting with its inherent movement. Imagine a cavern not carved out violently, but coaxed into being, perhaps by utilizing natural pockets formed by ancient movements, then gently expanding them. They might have observed how meltwater could carve intricate patterns, and learned to channel geothermal warmth or carefully contained fires, not to destroy, but to sculpt. A precise pulse of warmth carefully directed could begin a slow process of internal melting and refreezing, subtly shifting the structure, hollowing out a new space over many long cycles. The walls would gleam, polished by the very act of their creation, smooth as glass in places, yet rough with ancient striations elsewhere, telling tales of the ice's passage through millennia. This wasn't building with bricks or timber, but with light and pressure. Imagine their tools, not chisels of metal, but perhaps resonant chambers that emitted low-frequency vibrations, or focused thermal lensing apparatus that could direct gentle, shaping warmth. They would have been artisans of thermal dynamics, guiding subtle temperature gradients within the ice to create micromelt pockets that would then refreeze in new configurations, slowly, painstakingly, shaping living spaces. Each chamber might have taken seasons, perhaps years, to truly complete, a testament to their patience and foresight. And stability, in such a dynamic world, would have been paramount. We can picture them identifying anchors, inclusions within the ice, perhaps immense boulders or resilient strata of compacted silt, which provided islands of relative permanence against the flow. Their dwellings might have taken on the character of sprawling, multi-limbed root systems, extending tendrils of supporting structures that braced against key points, distributing the immense pressures of the surrounding mass. Some chambers might have been entirely temporary, built for specific purposes, destined to be reabsorbed by the glacier as it continued its journey. Others, more foundational, would have been engineered to migrate, ever so subtly, with the larger flow of their icy home, gradually adapting to new pressures, new light, new directions of warmth and cold. This adaptability would also be crucial to managing the constant threat of immense destructive pressures. A creak might herald a gradual shift, a tremor might signal a deep rearrangement. Their deep lore would surely have been filled with tales of structural failures, of collapses, and desperate last-moment evasions. They would have developed a profound instinct, almost a sixth sense, for the internal language of the glacier. The subtle hums, the distant groan of ice rubbing against rock, the minute changes in pressure detected by sensitive touch. This profound awareness would not have instilled constant fear, but rather a profound respect and a keen attunement, much like a sailor understands the moods of the ocean. Their very survival hinged on being not merely inhabitants, but listeners, students of the ice. As the concept of building within this colossal moving crystal began to take form, so too did the fundamental challenge of sustaining life itself. How could light, air, and warmth, those essential requirements, be maintained in a realm of perpetual twilight and bone-deep cold? This question forms the next layer of our exploration, drawing us deeper into their remarkable ingenuity. The light we have already touched upon, a mesmerizing blue-green world. But this gentle, filtered illumination alone would not have sufficed for their needs. Picture, then, living chambers, not just sculpted from the surrounding ice, but animated by an internal glow. These would be not like electric bulbs, stark and harsh, but soft, diffuse emanations that pulsed with a living energy. The most plausible answer, echoing whispers from deep ocean research, suggests that these people might have fostered symbiotic relationships with specialized psychrophilic or cold-loving bioluminescent organisms. Imagine, then, great communal halls where the very walls shimmered. Perhaps they cultivated unique species of luminous algae or fungi within the ice itself, coaxing them into intricate patterns, like living murals that gave off a gentle, rhythmic light. Or perhaps they harvested these light givers and embedded them into specially constructed, transparent ice panels, guiding their growth with care, fostering colonies that would bloom and ebb like slow-breathing suns. These light farms would not only provide illumination, but perhaps also contribute, in their tiny way, to oxygen regeneration, creating a delicate, self-sustaining ecosystem. The effect would be truly otherworldly, a constant shifting dance of soft luminescence, casting long liquid shadows, making every facet of the ice architecture glow from within. Different chambers, designed for different purposes, might have held subtly varied light sources, emitting hues that bespoke their function. A softer, warmer tone for sleeping chambers, a brighter, clearer emanation for workshops or places of study. And the air, that invisible yet absolutely essential element, it would seem at first glance an insurmountable problem. How to draw fresh breath within the crushing depths of a sealed, frozen environment. Here again, their profound understanding of glacial dynamics and bioengineering would have been brought to bear. Glaciers, for all their immensity, are not truly sealed. They breathe. Meltwater tunnels can act as vast circulatory systems, drawing air currents deep within their interior. And volcanic or geothermal vents beneath glaciers can release gases that find pathways upwards. We might imagine them having an almost spiritual connection to the airstreams, sensing their currents, recognizing their unique qualities. Their early explorations would undoubtedly have charted these natural ventilation paths, these subtle internal breezes that threaded their way through immense ice faults and melt channels. They would then have gently widened and guided these paths, perhaps creating enormous spiraling shafts that drew fresh air down from specific surface vents, purifying it through living filters of ice flora cultivated in dedicated aeroponic chambers. The air itself might pass through sheets of specially structured ice, cooling and cleansing, becoming infused with the faint, invigorating scent of minerals and frost. These ventilation systems would require constant monitoring, constant adjustment, like living entities themselves. Think of slow, enormous valves of ice, adjusted not by mechanical means but perhaps by gentle applications of warmth or subtle vibrational pulses. They cause internal melting and refreezing, slowly regulating the flow. Perhaps giant biomechanical fans driven by geothermal differentials might have gently stirred the heavy air within vast cavern networks, keeping it in motion, ensuring that no pocket of stale air could settle. This constant gentle circulation would not only provide oxygen but also help regulate temperature, subtly distributing the precious warmth generated within. Which brings us, of course, to that warmth. The omnipresent deep cold of the glacier would necessitate an internal furnace, something beyond merely surviving but allowing a thriving existence. The most enduring source, and the one most naturally connected to the profound age of our planet, lies deep within the Earth itself: geothermal energy. Many of the world's great glaciers rest upon geologically active regions or are crisscrossed by ancient fault lines where heat bleeds up from the mantle. Picture communal hearths, not of fire in our conventional sense, for open flames within a delicate ice structure would be disastrous, but places where the raw heat of the earth was channeled, tamed, and shared. Perhaps immense natural hot springs, sealed and vented, form the cores of their central communities. Around these core heat sources, their architecture would layer outwards like the rings of an ancient tree, with dwellings closest to the heat drawing ambient warmth through intricately sculpted radiant ice ducts. Further out, sophisticated insulation techniques, layers of pure air-trapping ice, perhaps augmented by specially cultivated slow-growing insulative fungi, or even blankets of fibrous snow that had settled and compacted over immense periods, would retain the warmth. The very flow of water, warmed by geothermal vents, could also be harnessed. Channels of this warmer water, meticulously piped and insulated within thicker ice walls, might have run beneath floors and through the inner structure of their homes, creating a gentle, radiant heat. The contrast between the outside chill of the deep glacier and the carefully managed internal warmth would have been profound and deeply cherished, marking the threshold between raw survival and the comforts of home. And perhaps even the collective body heat of their thriving populations would have contributed, a warmth of shared existence radiating outwards, warming their ice city from within. Their societal structures would have inherently gravitated around these sources of warmth, fostering communities of incredible interdependence and physical proximity, a natural expression of life lived in extremis. So we have light, air, and warmth sculpted, harvested, and coaxed from the ice and the earth beneath. But what of sustenance? What did this hidden civilization eat? The glacier, seemingly barren and lifeless, held its own hidden bounty for those who understood its language. Their larder, like their architecture, would be unlike anything we commonly imagine. Imagine great caverns, some shimmering with soft light, others deep in perpetual twilight, where the air itself was alive with the hum of growth. These would be their ice gardens or subglacial farms. These wouldn't be fields of wheat or orchards of fruit trees, but intricate ecosystems built upon the unique properties of their world. Consider the role of cryotolerant or cold-adapted extremophile organisms. These microscopic life forms, unseen by the casual eye, thrive in conditions of near freezing. The pure, nutrient-rich meltwater that flowed from deep within the glacier, continually replenishing mineral salts from ground rock friction and deep sediments, would have been the lifeblood of their agriculture. They might have cultivated vast biodomes, not enclosed by glass but by specially engineered transparent layers of ice, or specialized algae and bacterial mats would grow in shallow flowing water. These organisms, sustained by minimal light and the cold, mineral-rich environment, would have formed the base of their food chain, akin to phytoplankton in an ocean. They might have gently harvested these nutrient-rich layers, processing them into edible pastes or energy bars, perhaps even using specific wavelengths of the blue-green bioluminescent light to maximize their growth. Beyond the microbial, we can conceive of larger, more complex life forms that adapted to these conditions. Perhaps ancient populations of small, invertebrate life, surviving on chemosynthetic energy from deep earth vents, or feasting on the abundant biomats. They might have found unique varieties of deep-dwelling crustaceans, perhaps colorless and translucent, moving like living crystal through subglacial lakes, or subterranean fungi, adapted to grow in nutrient-rich sediments stirred up by the glacier's relentless grind against bedrock, their intricate networks feeding on mineral compounds and waste. These fungi, potentially providing a substantial source of protein and essential nutrients, would be cultivated in dedicated humid ice chambers, perhaps illuminated by a warmer spectrum of engineered light, their growth coaxed and carefully managed by specialized cultivators. The harvesting of these food sources would be a meticulous, rhythmic process. Imagine silent boats, carved from ice itself or from a lightweight insulating material, gliding across the surface of vast, clear subglacial lakes. Small, luminous nets, woven from some ancient enduring fiber, would be cast and gently drawn in, bringing up their precious bounty of algae mats or unseen aquatic life. For the fungi, special delicate tools might be used, akin to modern mushroom knives, to ensure sustainable harvests without damaging the underlying mycelial networks that were the true bedrock of their subterranean farms. And water itself, while seemingly abundant as their very environment, would require meticulous management. Not all glacial melt is equal. They would have discovered springs of incredible purity, melt water that had been filtered through miles of ice, free from surface contaminants. This prized water would be carefully channeled, stored in crystalline reservoirs within the glacier, and distributed for drinking. Other, less pure water, or that enriched with specific mineral content from deep within the bedrock, would be used for cultivation, for heating, or for the very subtle work of reshaping their icy abodes. Their very lives were inextricably linked to the precise control and understanding of water in its liquid, solid, and perhaps even gaseous forms. To understand their very sense of belonging, to truly grasp what it meant to live here, we must explore the unique tapestry of their culture and community, sculpted by this immense silence and ever-present crystal. Within the echoing corridors and shimmering caverns, a different kind of society would undoubtedly have bloomed. Picture a communal gathering, not in a grand hall with booming acoustics, but a quiet confluence. Figures wrapped perhaps in warm, layered garments made of refined organic fibers, moving with a graceful, measured cadence, their voices soft, almost murmuring. The sounds within their dwellings would have been distinct. Loud noises would echo endlessly, distorting, becoming disorienting within the ice. So, their natural language, we might infer, evolved to be inherently quiet, characterized by low tones, nuanced inflections, perhaps even incorporating periods of profound silence punctuated by subtle, expressive gestures. Communication might have extended beyond mere spoken word. The keen perceptions fostered by living in a low-light, muted environment would lend itself to other forms of sensory interaction. Imagine their hands, adept not only at the intricate sculpting of ice, but perhaps also at delicate forms of tactile communication, a rich lexicon of touch that conveyed nuance in the pervasive semi-darkness. They might have developed forms of echolocation, utilizing subtle clicks or hums directed against the ice to navigate unfamiliar passages, building detailed mental maps of their complex home. Perhaps even the bioluminescent elements within their architecture or their personal adornments could serve a purpose beyond mere illumination, acting as a dynamic visual language of pulsing light, communicating mood, direction, or intent in a silently glowing exchange. Social structure, forged in an environment of shared scarcity and immense interdependence, would place communal survival above individual ambition. Their very existence would hinge upon cooperation, on an innate understanding of shared fate. There would be no kings or grand emperors in this deeply practical world, but perhaps Guardians of the flows, individuals charged with understanding and maintaining the critical air, water, and thermal conduits. Or ice whisperers, elders whose profound knowledge of the glacier's internal rhythms allowed them to foresee shifts and guide adaptation. Decisions would likely be made through deep, quiet consensus, patiently arrived at over many cycles, prioritizing the long-term well-being of the entire community. Every life would contribute, and every life would be intrinsically valued, for their small population could afford no loss. Art and expression would similarly adapt to and reflect their environment. Forget carved statues in stone. Here, art would be ethereal, interactive, ever-changing, crafted from the very essence of their world, ice and light. Imagine chambers specifically designed as sonic sanctuaries, where unique vibrational frequencies generated by water falling or air flowing through sculpted ice resonating chambers would create complex, soothing sonic tapestries listened to and felt throughout the body. Their equivalent of paintings might be carefully cultivated walls of bioluminescent algae, shifting in color and intensity like living canvases, reflecting patterns and stories unique to the subtle movement of life and light. Ice sculpture would undoubtedly be a profound art form, but not sculptures as fixed, unchanging objects. Rather, imagine carefully designed pieces within living walls of ice, whose form slowly metamorphoses as the surrounding glacier subtly presses, melts, and refreezes, catching new angles of light, revealing new depths of blue, offering a new perspective with each passage of time. A living sculpture, in the truest sense, mirroring the constant change and adaptation that define their existence. Their most cherished lore might even be inscribed within specific formations of pure ancient ice memory crystals that, when illuminated just so, would reveal faint flowing patterns, a delicate language embedded directly within the fabric of their world, telling tales of their origins, their challenges, and their wisdom. This connection to the deep past, to the raw, patient power of the glacier, would naturally form the core of their spiritual beliefs. The glacier itself would be seen not as mere physical surroundings, but as the great Mother Ice, the shifting heart, the timeless wanderer. Its immense scale and continuous slow movement would instill a profound sense of perspective, dwarfing individual lives and grounding them in the context of immense geological time. Their deities, if they had them, might be expressions of fundamental forces, the guiding light that filters through miles of ice, the geothermal warmth that keeps the heart of their home beating, the purity of the meltwater, the silence of profound cold. They would venerate cycles, the freeze and thaw, the slow rhythmic push of the ice, the delicate balance of life in the deep cold. And what would be their understanding of death in this perpetually pristine, unchanging yet changing environment? Perhaps the passing of life was seen not as an end, but a slow dissolution back into the ice, a reintegration with the primal elements. Their dead might not be buried, but perhaps committed to special consecrated melt pools, where their physical forms would slowly return to water, absorbed into the deep hydrological currents, thus joining the continuous flow of the great glacier itself, becoming one with their ancient home. Their memory, then, would not be found in stone, but in the enduring flow of their community's story, echoing in the blue depths of their ice world. For all their remarkable adaptations and profound reverence for their frozen world, the glacier remained a fundamentally dynamic and immense force. The constant, almost imperceptible shift of its mass posed not just a physical challenge, but shaped the very rhythm of their collective life. Living within this colossal moving crystal demanded an understanding that extended beyond mere engineering. It required an almost predictive foresight, a delicate attunement to the Earth's own profound, slow pulse. Imagine, then, the careful preparations that would precede a great shift, not a sudden earthquake, but the slow, inevitable creep of immense ice. Their seers, the ice whisperers mentioned earlier, would dedicate their lives to discerning these subtle precursors. Perhaps it involved keen observations of tiny cracks, sensing the deepening resonance in the glacial fabric, or detecting infinitesimal changes in pressure, not merely with instruments but with a refined sense that blurred the lines between intuition and empirical knowledge. Their ability to read the minute languages of ice, from the faint echoes within its depths to the almost imperceptible changes in temperature gradients across vast expanses, would be paramount. When a significant movement was anticipated, perhaps once in a generation, or even less frequently, the community would enter a phase of careful transition. Imagine dwellings that were not rigid and fixed, but possessed an intrinsic adaptability. While some core structures might have been built around permanent bedrock anchors, many residential or less critical chambers could have been designed for calculated flexibility. They might employ a form of adaptive architecture, where key sections were interconnected by pliable yet robust material, perhaps strands of exceptionally resilient, ice-grown biofibers, or sections designed to partially melt and reform under shifting pressures, gradually distributing stress and preventing catastrophic ruptures. Perhaps entire sections of their settlements were designed to be partially mobile, resting on deep subglacial meltwater rivers or lubricated strata of sediment, allowing them to gently float or glide across distances as the surrounding ice flowed. Like immense submerged barges, these platforms would allow entire communities to migrate in slow concert with their glacial home. When critical zones began to experience insurmountable pressure, certain passages or even whole living areas might be sealed off, abandoned, allowed to be reabsorbed by the glacier, as the community would shift to freshly excavated or pre-prepared relocation chambers. This deep understanding of their dynamic environment fostered a unique philosophy of impermanence and resilience. While their physical structures could be stunning in their delicate beauty, they would understand that true permanence lay not in the rigidity of their homes, but in the adaptability of their people. They built, knowing that the glacier would eventually reclaim, reshape, or relocate. Their commitment was not to a specific fixed dwelling, but to the living community itself, wherever the flow of the ice might take them. This was not a mindset of frantic reconstruction, but of thoughtful repositioning and harmonious reintegration with their moving world. They became, in a sense, a part of the glacier's flow themselves, mirroring its patient, relentless progress. To fully understand this society, we must look at the deepest currents of their collective soul, their beliefs and philosophies, echoes of their journey, reverberating in the silence of their crystalline home. Life in the deep ice would strip away all but the essentials, fostering a profound connection to fundamental truths and a unique relationship with the concepts of time and existence. Imagine a sanctum not of stone or carved wood, but of ancient, pristine ice, a chamber whose very walls hummed with millennia of silent memory. The light here would be purest, softest blue, filtering down through miles of undisturbed glacier, conveying a sense of timeless peace. It is in such places, perhaps, that their deep contemplations took form. Their understanding of existence would be deeply intertwined with the slow, patient unfolding of glacial time. They lived within a world whose oldest parts bore witness to eons, where the ice around them encapsulated historical climate, atmospheric gases from countless ages past, tiny frozen organisms from ancient ecosystems. This omnipresent, tangible history would surely have imbued them with a unique sense of scale, a profound respect for endurance. Their concept of spirituality would likely be animistic, a reverence for the glacier itself as a vast, living entity. The great cold might not be a malevolent force, but the primordial mother, preserving and sculpting, demanding respect, offering sustenance. The movement of the glacier might be seen as its breath, its internal rumblings as a deep song. The crystalline perfection of pure ice might be revered as an ultimate expression of purity and potential. Their most sacred spaces could be unique ice formations, sculpted by millennia of natural forces into shapes that inspired awe and reflection. They might tell tales of ancestor ice, particularly clear and ancient veins that, when properly observed, revealed the wisdom and memories of past generations embedded within their structure. Their philosophy would champion adaptation, patience, and harmonious coexistence. Confronted daily by a world that could both shelter and destroy, they would embrace the lessons of the glacier, to be yielding yet resilient, to flow with change rather than resist it violently, to find beauty and purpose in enduring even the harshest conditions. Their societal values would center on preservation, not just of their own lives, but of the delicate, carefully managed balance of their internal ecosystems. Waste within such an environment would be an unforgivable extravagance, and reverence for every resource, every life, however small, would be a core tenet. What knowledge, then, might they have harbored of the outside world? It is likely that memories of the surface would persist in their oral traditions, faded but enduring tales of the bright sunlands or the warmth above. Perhaps these stories became myths, cautions against a harsh and fleeting existence beyond the protection of the ice. Or perhaps they retained a deep contemplative connection to the world above, sending out occasional, almost ceremonial expeditions, small, carefully provisioned teams venturing to the surface to observe the passage of stars, the distant sweep of weather, the slow changes in global climate, acting as quiet sentinels for their hidden civilization, interpreting these signs for their deep-dwelling brethren. This might have provided not a longing to return, but a sense of purpose to exist as the memory keepers, the quiet witnesses to geological time. Their philosophy would likely lead them to a profound acceptance of the interconnectedness of all things, the breath of the ice, the mineral whispers in the meltwater, the quiet light of the biomats, the shared warmth of the community, all parts of an intricate, interdependent whole. They would have truly understood that nothing existed in isolation, and that their collective survival was a tapestry woven from myriad threads, each dependent on the strength and presence of the others. This deep ecological wisdom, honed by their unique environment, would represent one of their most significant, if quiet, achievements. Beyond their profound understanding of the glacial environment, a truly sustainable life deep within the ice would undoubtedly require remarkable physiological and cognitive adaptations, slowly etched into their very beings over countless generations. The great cold's embrace would sculpt them not just culturally but physically and mentally. Imagine, then, subtle yet significant shifts in their biology. Exposed to the consistent chill and dim blue spectrum light, their bodies would naturally conserve heat more efficiently. Perhaps their metabolic rates were subtly higher than ours, allowing for sustained internal warmth. Their blood might have a different composition, perhaps enriched with specialized proteins acting as natural antifreeze, ensuring circulation even in near-freezing internal temperatures. Their senses, finely tuned for a world of quiet subtlety, might include a highly refined touch, able to detect minute pressure changes and vibrations in the ice around them, communicating impending shifts or the approach of a fellow being long before any visual or auditory cue. Their eyes might have adapted to process blue light with remarkable efficiency, enhancing their perception of movement and form in their perpetual twilight, while their internal biological clocks would synchronize not with the surface's rhythm of sun and moon, but with the deeper, slower cycles of their glacial home, perhaps aligning with geothermal pulses or the ebb and flow of meltwater currents. But the most profound adaptations might lie in their mental and emotional landscape. The demands of such an existence would foster traits that, to us, might seem almost alien in their intensity. Extreme patience, for one. To build a chamber over years, to wait for a specific meltwater current, to decipher the slow, ponderous shifts of their home, these would require a profound, almost limitless wellspring of patience. Their minds would be honed for sustained focus, for discerning subtle patterns and interconnectedness, for understanding that momentous events often unfold over geological time, not mere human moments. Impulsiveness or rashness would be inimical to their survival, cultivated out of their nature by the unrelenting lessons of the ice. Their emotional lives, too, might reflect this. They would cultivate a deep inner quietude, a meditative state born from living in silence. Intense, outwardly expressed emotions would likely be rare, replaced by a nuanced understanding of internal states, communicated through gentle gestures or shared stillness. This is not to say they lacked joy or sorrow, but that these emotions would be expressed with a profound, almost crystalline purity, understood without need for dramatic outbursts, reflected perhaps in the quality of the light they created or the resonance of a crafted ice chamber, and their approach to health and healing would draw directly from their environment. The very purity of the deep glacial meltwater, laden with specific minerals in a pristine, unprocessed state, might be regarded as having profound therapeutic properties. Specific psychrophilic organisms could hold anti-inflammatory or regenerative compounds. They might have cultivated strains of cold-loving flora for medicinal teas or poultices, treating ailments unique to their low-light, high-humidity, deeply cold world. Their concept of wellness would extend beyond physical health to an alignment with the subtle energies of their home, seeking balance and flow, mirroring the meticulous care they applied to their communal breathing and water systems. This profound integration of self with environment, physically and mentally, speaks to a species that did not just live in glaciers, but became, in a deep and enduring sense, a part of the glacier itself. Yet, even for a civilization so profoundly attuned to the glacial world, nothing lasts forever. And so we arrive at the profound question that has hung in the silence since we first uttered their name. Why are they lost? Why do we perceive only whispers and traces rather than thriving cities of blue light? The veiled exodus, as we might term it, is the most poignant layer of our journey, seeking to understand not just their beginning, but their slow, silent vanishing. Imagine, then, a moment, not of sudden catastrophe, but of immense, almost unbearable gradualness. For a people whose lives were synchronized with geological time, their passing would likely not have been a dramatic end, but a slow, unfolding denouement. Perhaps the glaciers themselves began to change more rapidly than even their ancient wisdom could anticipate. If global climate shifted, bringing sustained periods of increased melt, their finely tuned environmental controls might begin to falter. Increased meltwater could destabilize their structural anchors, flood their vital tunnels, or dilute their carefully cultivated subglacial ecosystems beyond repair. A continuous, slow rise in temperatures, even a few degrees spread over centuries, would slowly but inexorably undermine their foundations. Their intricate balance, achieved over generations, would begin to fray, piece by fragile piece. Or perhaps, ironically, it was the very lack of environmental pressure that led to their decline. What if a new, subtle, deep geothermal shift opened new channels, warmer regions, causing areas of their ancestral glacier to thin from beneath, exposing them gradually to unseen pressures, new pathways of vulnerability? Another possibility, one born of profound societal wisdom, is a voluntary migration, a slow, intentional withdrawal. Their deep philosophy, embracing impermanence and the wisdom of cycles, might have led them to accept a profound truth, that their era within the great glaciers was reaching its natural conclusion. As their primary glaciers aged, thinning or fragmenting due to vast climatic shifts unseen from their inner world, they might have recognized the signs. Their seers, attuned to the immense pulse of the earth, could have divined a period of significant environmental upheaval above, making surface dwelling impossible, even for those adapted to cold. This foresight would then have led to a collective decision, made through patient, quiet consensus, to undertake an exodus of a different kind, a movement not out, but perhaps further in. Imagine small, incredibly well-prepared expeditionary groups, not equipped for a harsh surface journey but for an even deeper penetration into the Earth's crust, perhaps seeking a profound, final sanctuary in vast, newly discovered cavern systems untouched by glacial ice, nourished by potent, stable geothermal energy. Or perhaps, seeing their world fragment around them, they decided to return to the primal essence from which they sprang, allowing themselves to be peacefully reabsorbed by the increasing meltwater, becoming one with the deep hydrological cycle of the planet itself, leaving behind no sorrow, but only acceptance. What remains? Only the poignant quiet of an abandoned world. Picture now a desolate chamber within the blue heart of the ice, perfectly preserved, yet utterly empty. The bioluminescent walls, long uncultivated, have dimmed to the faintest memory of light, a phosphorescent whisper that now relies only on the very slow decay of the last living cells, casting skeletal shadows of once vibrant spaces. The elaborate ice ducts designed to channel warmth and air stand silent, their once smooth surfaces now etched by the unguided flow of time, gathering faint rime. A single perfectly preserved ice sculpture might remain, a masterpiece of quiet artistry, frozen in a state of eternal becoming, still reflecting the barest scintilla of incoming blue light from miles above, its forms hinting at complex narratives forever unspoken. Perhaps traces of their existence are still out there, deep within the colossal architecture of an ancient glacier, waiting. Small, incredibly resilient tools made of adapted, organic, or perhaps metallic components. A piece of an insulated garment, a finely carved shard of transparent, strengthened ice, perhaps bearing faint, etched patterns of their luminous language. These are the spectral whispers our distant sensors pick up, the fleeting energy signatures that hint at deliberate shaping, improbable stability. They are not grand ruins in the conventional sense, but ghost echoes, frozen moments in the heart of moving time. They represent a civilization that understood profound lessons, lessons of humility, of patience, of living not in opposition to the immense forces of nature, but in a delicate, sustained harmony with them. And as their physical presence faded, they left behind not crumbling cities of stone, but perhaps an enduring legacy in the very heart of the planet itself, forever fused with the flowing memory of the ice. As we gently withdraw from the intricate chambers and vast, echoing spaces we have imagined, we carry with us more than just vivid images of crystalline spires and sunlit tunnels. We hold, perhaps, a nascent understanding of a different kind of life, a different cadence of existence, woven directly into the heart of the Earth's majestic frozen silence. The stories we have quietly pieced together, like snowflakes accumulating into a drift, speak not only of a civilization lost to the ages, but of deeper patterns that resonate through all human understanding, touching the quiet core of what it means to belong, to endure, and ultimately, to become memory. Reflecting upon the unique artistry of their architecture, born not of stone quarried from the earth's surface but carved directly from the living glacier, we begin to glimpse a profound relationship. Their dwellings were not merely built upon the land, but within it, an intricate vascular system embedded in the glacial mass itself. Imagine the consciousness such an existence would foster, a constant, intimate dialogue with the immense, slowly shifting world around them. Each groaning sigh of the ice, each minute adjustment of the vast structure would have been not a threat but a whisper, a presence. This intimate embedding suggests a harmony that goes beyond mere survival. It speaks of a deep surrender, a patient listening to the slow, ancient heartbeat of the glacier itself. Their lives undoubtedly became entwined with its immense, almost geologic rhythms, stretching the very concept of home beyond its conventional bounds. And when we step back, considering the deliberate mastery involved in creating such enduring, yet ultimately impermanent shelters, we are drawn to reflect on our own impulses to build and create. What motivated them to chisel intricate passages and luminous halls into a structure that, though vast, was always in motion, always yielding, always subtly changing its form? It was perhaps not an attempt to dominate nature, but to truly participate with it, to mold themselves not just to the environment, but with it. In the deep quiet of their ice-born homes, one senses a wisdom regarding the fundamental impermanence of all things. Their buildings were monuments to adaptation, living breath within a frozen behemoth, rather than static fortresses against its power. This delicate balance, this art of existing in partnership with such a colossal, powerful force, stands as a quiet testament to their unique ingenuity and their remarkable spirit. Looking across all of this, the theme of adaptation begins to shimmer like light refracted through a prism of ice. From the fiery deserts to the frigid poles, from the lowest valleys to the highest mountain peaks, humanity has always sought to find its place, to make its home. But the glacial dwellers pushed the boundaries of this impulse to an extraordinary degree, transforming a landscape often seen as barren and hostile into a nurturing cradle. What does this tell us about the deep resilience of life? Not just human life, but life in its myriad forms. It suggests that limitations are often perceptions, that scarcity can birth ingenuity, and that comfort might sometimes be found in the most austere of circumstances. Their success, for however long it lasted, lay in a willingness to reshape their understanding of warmth, shelter, and community itself, fitting it perfectly to the unique, almost alien beauty of their surroundings. This extraordinary ability to adapt, to bend and flow with the monumental will of the ice, casts a gentle light on the expansive possibilities of the human spirit. And so, we naturally arrive at the profound impact such an environment must have had on their sense of time. To dwell within the glacier, a monumental clock moving on timescales far beyond a human lifetime, would surely have altered their perception of fleeting moments versus eternal drifts. The glacier's movements, imperceptible to an untrained eye yet relentless over years, decades, and centuries, would have imparted a unique perspective. Perhaps their lives unfolded at a different speed, attuned to the vastness surrounding them. Decisions might have been weighed with the understanding of geologic processes. Change would be accepted as an inevitability unfolding at an unhurried, monumental pace. This stands in gentle contrast to our own accelerated existence, where minutes melt into hours and seasons rush past in a blur. The glacial dwellers invite us to consider the virtues of patience, the quiet power of slowness, and the wisdom embedded in waiting for the Earth's own ancient rhythm to unfold. What does it feel like to measure an age not by revolutions of a clock, but by the gradual opening of a crevasse, or the imperceptible shift of a glacial tongue against the bedrock? Such an existence grounds one not just physically, but spiritually, in a timeline that dwarfed even the oldest ancestors. In this way, their profound integration with the ice points to a worldview perhaps centered less on individual human desires and more on the collective, interconnected pulse of the natural world. The health of their civilization would be intrinsically tied to the health of the glacier itself. Their myths and stories, one can only imagine, would have been infused with tales of ancient ice spirits, of the whispers carried on subglacial currents, and the light that filters through vast crystalline vaults. Such a deep bond suggests a reverence, a gratitude for their formidable benefactor. They didn't merely use the glacier, they honored it. And this deep ecological connection offers us a gentle reflection on our own place within the wider tapestry of life. What could we learn from a people whose very existence hinged upon an exquisite harmony with the Earth's grand, silent processes? Their story, even in its absence, hums with the possibility of a respectful, symbiotic relationship between humanity and its living environment. Ultimately, though, their mastery was extraordinary and their symbiosis profound. Even the most integrated civilization eventually yields to change. The melting of their icy abodes, a phenomenon likely beyond their full control, underscores a tender truth about even the grandest achievements of any species, that everything, no matter how substantial, is ephemeral. The vast glaciers themselves, appearing immutable, are actually dynamic entities, shaped by solar warmth and tectonic shifts, by snow and meltwater, by the grand climatic cycles of the planet. And so their disappearance, the silent absorption back into the melt, brings a quiet contemplation about loss and the natural cycles of emergence and decline. The very nature of their home, its fluidity and transient solidity, perhaps imbued them with an understanding of this inevitability. Their story isn't one of failure, but a graceful rejoining with the element that gave them life, like a snowflake returning to the sea. And yet, despite their physical disappearance, the idea of their existence, even now, resonates deeply. It stirs a latent wonder within us, prompting questions about what else might lie hidden, what other remarkable adaptations have unfolded, unseen and unheard, in the forgotten corners of our world and its long history. Their legacy isn't found in artifacts on dusty shelves, but perhaps in the subtle hints that the landscape itself still holds, in the lingering patterns of meltwater, or in the very concept of what is possible when life pushes against perceived limits. This kind of legacy is less about monuments and more about the echoes left in the collective human imagination, urging us to remain curious, to look deeper, and to listen more intently to the Earth's soft, enduring stories. In the quiet spaces between these moments of reflection, we can begin to draw connections not just to abstract patterns but to the core of our shared human understanding. Their story, even if a gentle imagining, speaks to our own longings for belonging, for security, for connection to something larger than ourselves. Just as they sought warmth and light within the cold embrace of the glacier, so too do we seek meaning and comfort within the vast, often overwhelming complexities of our own worlds. Their unique challenges and responses hold a mirror to our own. Where do we find our refuge? What are the invisible threads that tie us to our environment, to our communities, and to our deepest selves? Perhaps the answers are not found in towering structures, but in the subtle architecture of our interactions, our resilience, and our capacity for gentle adaptation. Their reliance on the slow wisdom of the glacier also whispers of the vital importance of natural rhythms. In an era where human schedules often override natural ones, their quiet surrender to the monumental pulse of their environment offers a gentle reminder. What would happen if we all, just a little, slowed our own internal glaciers, listening more closely to the deep-seated flows and cycles that govern our lives and our world? The gentle unfurling of geological time, reflected in the movements of their colossal home, reminds us that not all valuable lessons arrive swiftly or loudly. Some profound truths require patience, contemplation, and a quiet absorption into the deep hum of existence itself. Softly, like light falling on fresh snow, the narrative of these glacial inhabitants dissolves from a distinct tale into a pervasive mood, an understanding of interconnectedness. Their existence suggests that the barriers we perceive between humanity and nature are often illusory, porous membranes, that sometimes the most extreme environments foster the most profound forms of life, demanding ingenuity that leads not to dominance, but to graceful integration. They challenge our definitions of wilderness and home, of survival and flourishing. They beckon us to reconsider the silent, powerful forces that shape not just landscapes, but entire ways of being. Ultimately, the faint echoes of the lost civilization in the ice bring us back to a profound human yearning, the desire to truly see and understand the world around us, not just its surface, but its hidden depths, its unseen currents, its deep and slow heart. Their story, imagined or real, invites us to cultivate a gentler, more expansive gaze, to appreciate the fragile strength of existence in all its myriad forms, to understand that the very structures of our lives, much like their icy homes, are perpetually in flux, inviting us to find beauty and purpose not in static certainty, but in the enduring grace of impermanence itself. It is in this tender whisper that we might discern the deeper meaning of all our human journeys, and so we find ourselves, as the soft light of our shared exploration begins to dim, in the quiet after all we've gently unveiled. We've journeyed together into realms unseen, felt the whisper of glacial winds, and imagined lives woven intricately with the very fabric of ice. This evening, we spoke of a civilization that dreamed and built, not in stone or wood, but in the slow, crystalline embrace of the frozen world. We painted a picture of existence utterly unlike our own, where time moved at the pace of a shifting glacier, and light filtered through a colossal, ever-changing ceiling of sapphire and white. As we close this chapter, let us linger for a moment in the echo of their unique serenity. Imagine again, if you will, the gentle hum of life deep within those frozen cathedrals, a civilization that understood, perhaps better than any other, the profound wisdom of impermanence and adaptation. They didn't fight the cold or the slow crawl of their environment. They became one with it. Their art might have been carved from fleeting ice, their knowledge passed down through generations whose understanding was deepened by the patient, unhurried pulse of their icy home. Their story, whether fact or the gentlest dream, reminds us that life, in its infinite forms, can find a way to flourish in the most unexpected and beautiful places. It reminds us that our own definitions of civilization, progress, and even existence might be but tiny facets of a far grander, more diverse tapestry. In the quiet, after all this imagining, we might sense the vastness of Earth's untold stories, the unwritten histories hidden beneath layers of time and rock, water, and ice. For centuries, perhaps millennia, these gentle dwellers beneath the snow and sky carved out a life that required a unique harmony, a deep understanding of their ephemeral world. Their existence was a slow ballet with time itself, an intimate dance with the inevitable thaw and refreeze, meltwater song and creaking ice, and perhaps, in the end, it was their very impermanence, their deep recognition of their fleeting presence, that granted them a tranquility we, in our rapid, restless world, often yearn for. They understood that all things return to the source, that the magnificent ice walls they called home would one day rejoin the ocean, carrying with them the silent echoes of lives lived with extraordinary grace. Think of the stillness. Think of the colors that must have danced across their days, the pure white, the myriad blues from deepest indigo to skies most ethereal pale, the transient flashes of silver and gold when sunlight, just so, pierced a hidden opening or refracted through an ancient ice cave. Their senses, attuned to such subtle shifts, must have perceived the world with an acute clarity, a quiet attentiveness that perhaps allowed them to appreciate beauty in every minute crystalline detail. Their technology, if they'd possessed it, might have been biological, biomimetic, living tools and gentle mechanisms that drew their energy from thermal gradients, from the soft whispers of geological heat, or the latent cold itself. Imagine architecture that slowly healed itself, regenerating cracks, flowing with the glacier's pulse, built with the wisdom of deep time. The very concept of a lost glacial civilization asks us to reconsider our assumptions about progress. Is progress always about building higher, faster, louder? Or can it be about cultivating a deeper, more peaceful integration with our environment, learning to listen to the Earth's rhythms rather than imposing our own? These forgotten inhabitants of the ice might have reached an enlightenment far beyond our material definitions, a wisdom rooted in patience, reverence, and an understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, even within the most formidable and serene of landscapes. And so, as we allow the curtain to slowly descend on this vision, let's carry with us the tranquil awareness that some of life's most profound expressions might forever remain cloaked from our view, nestled in the earth's majestic silence. They exist not for us to conquer or consume, but merely for us to ponder, to marvel at, and to allow their possibility to expand the horizons of our own imagination and empathy. The deep cold that held them fast also preserved them in a unique state of grace, allowing their story, even as a phantom limb of history, to extend through eons until it brushes against our own conscious thoughts in this moment. Perhaps our journey with them today isn't truly about discovering their secrets, but about unveiling a little more of our own capacity for wonder, for calm contemplation, for quiet awe. In a world saturated with information, with constant clamor, allowing ourselves this gentle delve into the unknown, into a possibility that stretches our conventional understanding, can be a restorative act. It's an invitation to pause, to listen not just with our ears, but with the softer, more perceptive parts of our being. What stories, what quiet lessons might be trying to reach us from the deepest, most untouched parts of our planet, and indeed, from the deepest parts of our own minds? In time, perhaps, we might learn to embrace a portion of that glacial wisdom, the patience required to observe, the calm understanding of cycles, the acceptance of grand, sweeping change over immense durations. Their whispered legend suggests a way of being that celebrates the sublime, enduring beauty of our planet, even in its most austere and challenging forms. They existed not in opposition to their world, but as an integral breathing part of it. A lesson, perhaps, for all of us as we navigate our own precious, yet often tumultuous environments. As your own eyelids grow heavy and the gentle peace of this story begins to settle over you, consider the countless ways life can choose to manifest, to survive, and even to thrive. Consider the profound quietude of the great ice sheets, those colossal keepers of secrets, moving with an unhurried majesty that belies the eons of history they hold within their shimmering depths. These lost glacial people are, in a sense, a beautiful metaphor for all that lies beneath the surface of our awareness, beneath the surface of our planet, and even beneath the surface of our busy lives. There is always a profound stillness to be found, if we only slow down enough to feel its chill, peaceful embrace. And so, as we gently release the imagery of frozen cathedrals and silent adapted lives, we can carry with us the sense that the world is far more mysterious, far more astonishing than our everyday perceptions allow. We leave the glacial folk to their enduring peace, suspended in time, perfect in their whispered anonymity. Their story concludes not with a dramatic flourish, but with the quiet echo of ice shifting, water flowing, and the infinite patient breathing of the earth itself. Rest well, dear friend. May your dreams be touched by the quiet beauty of forgotten realms and the enduring wonder of all that lies hidden, waiting gently beneath the surface of the world. Perhaps, in the hush of slumber, you will find yourself like them in a place of profound peace, connected to the oldest, deepest rhythms of our beautiful, astonishing planet. Until our paths gently cross again in this cozy corner of shared contemplation, know that stillness holds secrets and patience often unveils the most beautiful truths. Sleep deeply and dream softly.